Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome inside Garage Door Sports, your no-holds-barred weekly discussion on everything in the sporting world. That's right, folks. It's been a while, and we apologize. But we are back. Nick McVicker, Irfan Manji, hanging out with you on a Sunday morning as Irfan decides to leave the camera shot. It's been too long, for sure. We have been away. It's been a busy summer. Irfan, I think you can attest to that as well.
Yeah, it's been a long summer.
It's been a long and busy summer, but we are back. We are happy to be back. And while we could probably go through, I don't know, any countless number of sports stories,
Mhm.
the last time we were on here, it was just me by myself doing a Toronto fan therapy session, which at the time was very needed. I don't know if you remember, Irfan,
Yeah.
but the Leafs lost in the first round. It's not good. The Raptors lost in the first round. That's
Mhm.
not good. TFC couldn't stop goals if their life depended on it, and the Blue Jays couldn't hit.
Yeah.
It was a very dark time for Toronto sports fans, and
Mhm.
rightfully so. I mean,
Mhm.
it was bad. Well, why don't we fast forward to today and go over, what's going on in Toronto now? How does that sound? You down for that?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
All
try
right.
and help some Leaf, Raptor, Jays,
All
FC
right.
fans if we
Well,
can.
since that episode,
Mhm.
um, let's start with the not so good.
Mhm.
TFC couldn't stop bleeding goals. They got a little bit of help. They looked a lot better in the second half of the year because the Italian invasion of Crescito, Bernardeschi, and Insigne all came in, and they were able to outscore some of their problems. I'd say that's good, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Start with a
Fair.
positive.
Yeah.
They still couldn't stop goals. Bono and Westberg were not the answer. They are now both gone.
Mhm.
Will not be coming back. So that's a bit of a shock. What did you make of TFC this year, dude?
I think going forward, they're a very good side, but then as soon as you get into the final third, it's like, oh, the ball, let's run away from the ball. Kind of what it felt like. A lot of defenders were stretched out. The keeper, as good as Bono has been for TFC in his career, didn't really look like a good year for them. I
No.
mean, offensively, they were fun to watch, like, especially after the 2 Italian newcomers onto the club, you're like, "Okay, this is positive," but, they fixed the offense. They fixed the fact that people weren't coming to games and brought in the bigger names, but then nothing was changed defensively. I mean, Michael Bradley looked like he didn't have his legs anymore, and I mean, that might be a big decision in the offseason for TFC, whether
I
or
I
not
would
they.
almost argue though he was their best player this year.
Sure.
I
Y
picked him on Footy First. I picked him
Mhm.
as TFC's MVP for the season.
Fair, but you had to pick a guy who whose legs looked like they weren't there, and to be fair, I think you're right in the sense that when he wasn't playing, TFC also looked like they were in shambles, so at
Yeah,
least he was the voice of
he was
reason
the most
there.
valuable player.
But at what point does TFC start to go, "Okay, we need to change this roster because 'cause they're starting to.
Yeah,
They're trying to put seats, people in the seats, but, you can't be losing a game 5-3 or 5-4.
it's true.
Right?
True.
Like, at what point do teams go, "Okay, like, we're going to Toronto, okay, we know we're gonna score, we
Yeah.
just have to stop their 2 best players."
Yeah, and it's a weird spot that they're in right now because you have a great offense, right? The combination of Insigne, Bernadeschi, Jimenez, Io Akinola, they have if Osorio's healthy, he's obviously a key to that offense as well. They
Yeah.
have good attacking players.
Mhm.
That was not the issue by the end of the season. They were scoring 2 to 3 goals pretty much every match, which as any soccer fan knows, that's hard to do. And yet, they kept losing. It's a real problem when you look at it, and they've addressed part of it, I'll say,
Mhm.
by not bringing back Bono or Westberg, who, to their credit, did what they could in their time in Toronto. I mean,
Mhm.
we got a championship out of them. Let's not forget that, right? But they were never great MLS goalies. I think you and me have talked off air about this, but Bono and Westberg, at their very best, are average to good goaltenders in the MLS, right? And if you don't have a good defense, it's not good enough. Am I wrong in that statement?
Not at all. I mean, if you go to the championship team plus the team that went to the finals the year before, they were solid throughout the entire pitch,
Yeah.
right? So Bono just had to come up with one or two good saves, and that was it.
Yep.
But like you couldn't expect that the last 2 years either.
No. And
Mhm.
it's a problem. It's not ideal. So they're going out and they're going to have to find a top quality keeper, top quality MLS keeper.
Mhm.
Not really sure who that will be, but hopefully they can find somebody. I know there's some good free agents out there uh, in MLS circles. Name that keeps coming up that I hear, Bill Hamid. I would say he's a pretty good MLS keeper, so we'll see where that ends up.
Mhm.
Um, but overall, I think the second half of the year was obviously positive for TSC. We're going to try to stick on that, and hopefully they can continue that role into next season. Where do you want to go next, bud? I'll give you pick. I went first. Which of the
Um,
three Toronto teams that we haven't talked about yet would you like to talk about?
Start with the Raptors.
The
I'm gonna say
Raptors.
Argos for a second, and then was like, wait, we haven't
We
talked
don't we
about
don't
them
have to
yet.
worry about the Argos. They're first in the East. They are going to host a Eastern Conference
They got a
final. We're
bye. They're
fine. They're
fine.
good.
The Boatmen are good. All right, let's
Boatmen
talk
are
about the
good.
Dinos. Talk about the Dinos then.
The Dinos. Probably the
Uh,
most positive of the other three teams at the moment, in my opinion. I think that's fair to say.
I'd say that.
Um,
Coming off 2 back-to-back losses to the Nets and the Heat have
close
sort of
games. They were down
close
by
games.
21 at halftime to the net or to the Heat.
The Heat, yeah, they were down about 12 points late in the 4th quarter
Yep.
to the Nets and
They
clawed back.
they
Yeah.
made a fight in both of those games, and they've also fought back in their first game. So the
Mhm,
questions become like, how consistent is their rotation going to be? Right?
mhm.
We know the top five are good, very good,
Yes,
in fact,
very good. Mhm,
but you can't play them for 48 minutes. It's not possible. So you're gonna need some bench depth. You're gonna need guys to step up and be energy people off the bench. You got the Delano Banton, who is going to be the speed guy. He wants to push the pace every time he's on the court, which I respect.
yeah.
How valuable is that going to be? We have to wait and see on that. Christian Coloco through 3 games has been a bit of a surprise. I think he's taken to the NBA, which I don't think was something that I was expecting to say this early in the season.
Mhm,
And the more you look at the bench, the more I think Precious Achua is actually going to be a very important player for this Raptors team this year. So the questions are there, but they're in a
mhm,
very good spot at the same time.
mhm.
I don't think people are expecting them to be a top 3 team in the East, right? That's not what the
No,
expectation level is right now.
no,
But their
but a
over under
playoff
win
team,
total was set at 46.5 going into the season.
you know?
What did you make of that win total when you saw that?
Um, Definitely doable. I think they're a plus 40 win team
Yeah.
regardless. I mean, because of the good defense that they have, when any of the 5 starters gets hot, this team's very, very good.
Yep.
Um, they're just building off of last year. I think the only difference here is, and you've touched upon it, is how consistent are they going to be? I mean, Pascal started the year pretty well last year, dipped for about 20 games, came back, played really well for a couple games, dipped again.
Yep.
Um, OG's back healthy, so that's a huge thing on the defensive side. I think Scotty Barnes is gonna be a perennial star. Like, they have the makings to be one of the top teams in the East, but
Mhm.
again, it's the consistency. Like, so here's a question for you as well. Like, I've been thinking about this. You know, you compare it to the Celtics, you compare it to the Nets, you compare it to the Heat, the Bucks, right? Like, is there anyone on this Raptors team that when you see them date, like any night, you go, okay, I'm afraid of one player or two players, or is it just an even battle? Because to me, they're an even team to play. They're gonna beat you defensively really well. They have a couple of really good players that are gonna show up every night, and then it's just up to who scores the next point.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the Raptors, for me, I
Hmm.
think it's any one of their starters can dominate any game.
Hmm.
You don't know who it's going to be. Right now, I think Pascal Siakam is taking to his statement from the offseason that he wants to be a top 5 player in the league. And he's going to try to dominate every game, which I'm all for. If he has the ability to do it, do you, brother? I want to
Hmm.
see him do that.
Yeah.
But if he's not having a big game, I can also see Fred VanVleet going off for 30 points. I could see Gary Trent going off for 35 if he
Hmm.
gets hot. I could
Yeah.
see Scotty putting in 28, 10,
Hmm.
and 5, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
all of their starters, except like the only one that I don't see like going off big like that is OG. But you don't need him to go off like that. You want him
No.
to be the steady force as the defensive guy and put in 15 to 25 points a game, right? Consistently. Somewhere in that range is the perfect point total for OG depending on the game.
Of course.
And I think you're going to get that from him. So the 5 are able to take over games. Plain and simple.
Hmm.
But none of them like if you're a team coming into Toronto to play them, you're not keying necessarily on one player. Maybe right now you're keying on Pascal Siakam, but I
Hmm.
don't know how much that's going to help you at the moment because
No.
he's kind of on a heater right now, and you just kind of let him go.
Hmm.
But you're not keyed in on anyone because every single one of them could do something.
Yeah. Well, like you take the Nets game for example. They were focused on Van Vliet's 3 point. They were focused on Pascal driving, and they kept leaving Scotty open in the key,
Yep,
right, for like 6 points. And you're like, well, there you go. That's
yep.
that's the difference between this team, right?
And
Whereas
then they
you
would
take a
try
six,
to let Siakam take threes, and he was hitting them.
yeah,
Right? There was no blockouts on the 3-point shot. So it's like, okay,
we'll
yeah. I
take
mean,
that too. Yeah.
whatever works, dude. Like
Hmm. Hmm.
it's working. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um, they look like they're going to be competitive. I took the over on the 46.5 wins. I think they're about a 48 win team personally.
Like the match last year, sort of thing.
Yeah, match last
Okay.
year's. I think they actually overachieved last year a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, I think they can match, maybe do slightly better. They could get to 50. 50 is a lot though. Like
I
let's
think
not
so.
forget it's 82 game season. So
Yeah.
41 and 41 is 500.
Yep.
That would be putting yourself like 9 games over 500 or 18 difference between wins
Hmm.
and losses.
I
That's a
mean,
big
it's
ask.
possible. It's
Big ask.
possible with that defense,
It's
but is it
possible, but it's a
sustainable
big
for 82
ask,
games? Yeah, you're right. I agree with you on them.
right? So
Yeah. I
I
would say
do
that
think that they can do it.
they're probably a solid 45 win team.
Yeah,
So I guess I'll take the under because 46 and a half, right? So I'd say they're under. But that's because I'm still waiting for them to play the Heat consecutively a few games, see how
right.
they play against the Celtics, and then we'll see if they're a playoff team because I think that defense is playoff competitive. There's no doubt about it.
Yep, they're a
Yeah.
playoff team, maybe at the very least a play-in team. I think they finish 6th.
Oh yeah, I would
Personally,
agree
I
with
think
you.
they
6 or 7
finish
too.
6th, avoid the play-in.
Yeah.
But again, we'll see.
Hmm.
Lots of time to figure that out.
3 games
Um,
in.
yeah. There's another 79 games. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Okay.
Um, speaking of a team that's probably using that same line right now, it's fine. Everything's fine. Go to the Jays. I'm trying to figure out where I want to start because when we left off the last
Mhm.
episode, I was talking about how they couldn't hit,
Mhm.
right? And then since then, they had Alek Manoah pitch at a almost Cy Young pace.
Mhm.
And I say almost because unfortunately Justin Verlander had just a ridiculous year. So Manoah's probably second in the AL, maybe third.
Yep.
Should be a finalist for sure
Mhm.
for the AL Cy Young, and it's his second full season. Super positive. I think Vladdy, despite what his offensive numbers might say,
Mhm.
took a huge step forward in his development as a player this year. Hear
Yeah.
me out before you judge me, Irfan. But
I'm listening.
his defensive game
Mm.
took such a monumental leap forward. He is an AL Gold Glove finalist, one of the top 3 first basemen defensively in the entire league. This is a guy who moved over to first base 2 years ago.
Yep.
While his numbers don't match what he did last season,
Mhm.
last season probably wasn't an anomaly.
Yeah.
That's hard to say.
Word.
It's the right word. I just couldn't get it out. It was probably an anomaly
Mhm.
because what he did was almost historic. But he went up, and the only reason he didn't win the MVP was because there's a player named Shohei Ohtani who pitches and can hit like crazy. Right? It's going to
Mhm.
take a historic year this year from Aaron Judge, who just set the AL home run record and was up for the Triple Crown until 2 weeks left in the season, to beat Shohei Ohtani for the
Mhm.
MVP. So,
Yeah.
yes, Vlad didn't win it, but he was in the running, and that's incredible just in and of itself.
Yeah.
But his game took a whole step forward with the defensive stuff. His game took a whole step forward with the leadership, in my opinion, that he showed on the field. There was one game where he did that stupid run down to the bullpen in Tampa Bay.
Mhm.
And then after that, I felt like he took another big step in the leadership thing because he was always in the dugout. He was pushing his teammates. He was trying to be a better leader. This guy is still just 23,
Yeah. He's trying to make it his team,
right?
and you can tell this season. Yep.
I think Matt Chapman being on this team was a huge help as well.
Mhm.
Another guy up for a Gold Glove. The Jays have 5 Gold Glove finalists, by the way.
Nominees.
Did you
Yeah.
see that?
Yeah. Jackie Bradley Jr., who's insane
Jackie,
defensively.
Whit,
Wish he could hit more than 250, but
Whit Merrifield as well
Yeah.
was the utility. And Jose Barrios.
Yeah.
Barrios.
Yeah.
Another 5 Gold Glove candidates on a team that no one talks about their defense except for Bo Bichette being unable to make a throw. And that's where we're going to go next. Is that
That is the
the
season.
the downfall
Mhm.
of the Blue Jays was inconsistent hitting. Sound
Yeah.
familiar? And their inability to make some of the simple plays when the time came.
Mhm.
Bo Bichette is not a shortstop. I hate to say it, but if you can't consistently make the throw,
Mhm.
you got to
Would you
make a
believe
move.
me if I was about to say the same thing to you?
No, because we've talked about it before, so I'm not
Okay.
shocked.
Okay. I have, like, a drastic
I
change
want to
that the
hear it.
Jays could do.
I want to hear it.
So, there's multiple times this season that when I watch the Jays play, you'd be like, "Bo Bichette's gonna make an error," and he does. A throwing error, or he goes up to the plate and is over anxious or something. He did okay, I will say he did lead the league in hits, right? Or
Yeah.
opposite field doubles and stuff.
Offensively, I'm good with what he does. I know sometimes he swings out of his shoes and is overswinging.
Mm,
I'm okay with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
right. But when the game is on the line, or it's 2 outs in the 7th and you're like, "We gotta stop this rally,"
Yeah.
and you overthrow it, or you don't throw it well, or you don't pick up the ball well, you're not reading it well, you're like it happened many times this season, especially down the stretch. It
Yep.
happened in the playoffs on that last game against the Mariners, where it's just, "What are you doing in the outfield, buddy? Stay where you need to be," right?
Took
I've
out took
turned
out
off
his
the
teammate
TV.
with that.
Yeah, I've turned off the TV a handful of times this past season going, "That was bad. Why
Yeah,
am I watching this?" Like, Vladdy's making this insane split catch at first base because
which
of an
scares me every
insane
time he
throw,
does that.
right? Like, an insane throw by Matty Chap, and then you see Whit Merrifield running into the outfield with a massive grab, and then you see Bo Bichette overthrowing a play that's, like, the simplest toss to
Mhm.
first base, right? It was very disappointing to see that throughout the year. Um, so here is what I was thinking. I think because of his ability to still hit very well, I think you can package him to any team because he's still a very good player and get another perennial star. Carlos Correa is hitting the free market
Yep.
at the age of 28. He has a World Series with an asterisk, whatever we want to call it, but he's still a
The
World
World
Series winner,
Series.
right?
They made the playoffs so many times. It's a World Series. I'm good with that.
Right. I could see the Jays going in on Carlos Correa,
Okay.
and trying to ship Bo Bichette out and probably Kevin Biggio to get starting pitching. We need a left-handed pitcher that can actually win games for you because Kikuchi was not it this season.
No,
Hyun Ryu being injured was not it this year. I mean, they relied essentially on Gosman and Manoa
they also
to
didn't
lead
really
this way.
expect Hyunjin Ryu to be that guy this season.
No, but we needed a bottom guy that can maybe go out there and win 10 games this season for you, right? And then I think that was the minimal expectation from a guy who came from the Dodgers, was your ace a year and a half ago. I think 10 games or 8 games was probably what you would expect from him,
Yeah,
and
you need
that's
more than what we got for sure.
for sure. So, I can see Bo Bichette being shipped out after this season because you can leverage it saying, "Look, you can get your hits,
Yep.
you can play above 500 defense," or whatever you wanna call it. You can,
Okay, but how
you
about
know
this?
Mm,
Okay, humor me here.
sure.
What if he moves to second?
Not a
Because
bad idea either.
as good as Santiago Espinal has been, and
Mhm,
as good as Biggio and Whit Merrifield were at the end of this season,
mhm.
because I think Biggio actually made a huge turn and deserves to stay on the roster as that utility guy who can kind of fill in on days off for guys.
Yeah,
Vladdy needs a break, he goes at first. Whoever's playing second needs a break, he can go second. If Chapman
yeah,
needs a day off, he can go third. Just that
yeah.
super utility guy along with Merrifield. The two of them together can just play basically every position.
Mhm.
What if they go after a shortstop in free agency? Let me read off the list of free agent shortstops, and then I'll tell you who I think would be the perfect fit after.
Sure,
And
sure,
I want to get your opinion on who you think would be a good fit, and then I'll give you mine.
sure.
The available shortstops: Trey Turner
Yep,
is a free agent. Carlos Correa has opted out. Xander
yep,
Bogarts is going to be a free agent.
okay.
Dansby Swanson is going to be a free agent. Tim Anderson has a club option, but it sounds like he's going to hit free agency, and then they're going to try
Mhm,
to re-sign him.
yeah,
Elvis Andrus, Jose Iglesias, Alcides Escobar, Andrelton Simmons, D. Strange Gordon, Marwin Gonzalez, and Didi Gregorius. Those are the top guys. Okay?
mhm.
Out of those guys, who do you see being a good fit?
I think a handful of those guys would be fit
Okay.
because they would bring experience. I mean, I when you mentioned Dansby Swan what's his name? Shit, I was
Dansby
confused.
Swanson.
Thank you. I
I
think
got
he
you.
would be a good fit. He's a young player, 28. For Carlos Correa would be a good fit. Trey Turner would be a good left-handed bat to have,
Hmm.
right? He's lefty. I think any of the top 3 names that you listed would be perfect for the Jays. I don't It doesn't make a difference to me 'cause, they bring World Series, they bring hitting, and they bring the ability to hit against hard pitching, and that's something the Jays had a really tough time against the Mariners, was hitting guys that were throwing 98 plus, 97 plus.
Yep. Okay. The two names that jump out to me
Mhm,
for very different reasons, obviously. If you're just trying to replace a guy like Espinal, who had a good hitting year,
mhm,
but is probably better defensively, the name Andrelton Simmons always will come up into the conversation
mm,
because we don't really need more hitting on this Jays roster.
no,
Think about 1 through 9. This is probably the second best roster in the American League, at least.
sure, but they need somebody who can hit left-handed hitting and fast pitching.
Right. That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not arguing that, but
No, no.
it's not a bad guy to have in your fielding percentage, Andrelton
Mm,
Simmons.
yeah.
But the guy that really jumps out at me is Dansby Swanson.
Yeah.
This is a former first overall pick, I'm pretty sure. And he's one of the most consistent players on, the reigning MLB World Series champions. He batted .277 this year. He had, hold on, I want to get the fielding numbers because this is where I think he makes the biggest impact. He had a .986 fielding percentage, 8 errors the entire season. 8.
Yeah. That's like one error every 20 games.
Yeah. And if you want his splits, like his lefty righty splits,
Mm,
they're pretty consistent. In fact, he batted better against lefties than he
yeah.
did against righties. He was a .270 batting average against righties, .298 against lefties. It's important. Important to have. It'll be interesting to see what they do for sure. Another position that they could go after. What about a outfielder? Maybe one Jock Pedersen, who can also play first,
And he's a left-handed bat.
left-handed batter, or, and this is the guy that I think they should go after, Josh Bell from the Padres, who can also play outfield.
Yeah. I mean,
Could
he's
be
been a
interesting.
little underwhelming in
But he's a
the
lefty
Phillies.
bat.
I know, I get that. He's been a little underwhelming coming
He
off the
has
bench.
been,
Isn't he a
but
switch hitter?
he's a switch hitter, yes. But he brings a lefty bat, is what I mean.
Yeah.
But just another guy that you just kind of slot in and be like, good luck.
Yeah.
Not going to play every day, but he's
No, I
there.
mean he'd be an upgrade in the outfield than Bradley Zimmer was, who
Yeah.
hit a $160 or something.
Yep. All right.
Great defense, great speed, but
Yeah.
okay.
So potential. There's lots of potential there. Or they could bring
Yeah,
back Kevin Pillar.
yeah. Don't be. I think it was disappointing the way that last game ended with the lead being blown, but this
Yeah.
team is still very good. They just need to improve their bullpen. Think about what they're going to do with Bichette, and then get another arm because that rotation isn't bad. It's just you need someone else to eat up innings for you, and we lost a few players for
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, quickly. We got about 7
Mhm.
minutes here, okay?
Yeah.
Because I gotta go.
Okay.
Leafs. The Leafs.
Take a deep breath.
Disappointing finish to last season.
Yep.
They decide to blow up their goaltending, get 2 new goaltenders, bring in Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov.
Hmm.
And Matt Murray goes down injured in practice after his first game.
Hmm.
So it's now Samsonov's crease. Shalgren's back up. He is the super backup again, doing his thing. They had to send Robertson down. They had to send Simmons down. They had to send Clifford down. They're all now back up with the team and playing. All 3 of them actually had a really good game last night. I don't know. Do you agree with me, Irfan, on that? I think they all played well last night.
They looked better compared to the first couple games of the season.
The defense has 4 injuries right now.
Hmm.
Muzzin, Liljegren, Dahlstrom, who wasn't probably going to make the roster anyway. Jordy Ben.
Hmm. Yep.
They haven't looked great to start the season overall, but I
No.
say that, and they're sitting at 4-2. This is just another one of those seasons where the regular season is just going to happen, isn't it? Like, we're just going to have
Yeah.
to wait until the playoffs.
The last 5 games of this season to see the grind against teams that are trying to position, and then
Do
the
we even
playoffs.
need that? Like, If they're going to get into the playoffs, doesn't matter where they play. They need to win a first round matchup. That's all that this is.
Sure.
They have to win their first round in the playoffs this season.
Okay. If they
Unless
don't,
something goes drastically wrong and they don't make the playoffs, that is the entire that defines the season. If they do not win a playoff round, they need to blow up the front office.
yeah,
Am I wrong?
no. I was gonna say, what are you gonna pick to go? I think there's like a handful of people that are time to go. This
Dubas goes,
experiment hasn't worked. Yeah.
potentially Shanny.
Well, this experiment hasn't worked.
No, it hasn't.
And he's been here since Lou, and
Yeah.
nothing's changed.
Yep.
Right?
Now, the Lou years were very, very thin. Let's be honest. They weren't expecting a whole lot in those years.
No, but I thought they played good hockey in the Lou years because the expectation was low. Unfortunately,
expectation
the
was to
expectation
lose.
is over 100, right? Like the expectation now is more than 100%.
Yeah.
Like you're going
True.
fan pressure, you're going media pressure, you're going player pressure. I mean, the losses against the Yotes, was it last week, week before? It was just people are like, "That's
Predictable.
it. It sucks." Blah 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 blah, and it's like, guys, it's game 3 of the
Predictable,
season.
though.
Yeah,
I literally predicted that loss.
which is fine. It's okay to lose these games.
Yeah.
It's an 82 game season. What, you want them to win 82-0? That's not gonna happen.
Yes. Of course I want that to
I
happen.
rather see, the thing is, I rather they win 16 in a row to win the Stanley Cup than to win 82
Yeah,
games in a
I
season.
agree.
Right?
I agree.
I think if you're a Leafs fan, I understand the frustration because it's since 1967. Okay, I get it. Let's take a deep breath. They are still one of the best teams in the league, if not in the like across their division.
Yep.
They're 4-2, playing
Yep.
okay hockey. That should tell you something.
Yep. It's funny,
Listen,
though.
they're ahead of,
I've literally predicted both losses this year so far.
yeah, because it's just comical. That's just what the Leafs are.
I called the Game 1 loss against Montreal because I said everything is pointing to the Leafs win. But if you look at the momentum builders, everything is in the Montreal Canadiens' favor. Home opener, Jake Allen's back, Nick Suzuki's named captain, first game as the captain. It screams the Canadiens win, and they did. And then when
Yeah.
they play Arizona, I said, this is a very Leafs way to lose, but I think they're going to lose this game.
Well, like there was a moment where they had possession in the Yotes zone for 3 minutes,
Yeah.
and they couldn't do anything with it. I'm like, they're gonna lose tonight.
Yep.
That's it. They're done.
They actually played really well in the first period. I will say that.
They did.
But
They did. Just couldn't score.
no, I couldn't score. So we'll have to play that one by ear. It's still fresh with the Raptors and Leafs. We're hoping for good things this year.
Yeah,
We're gonna have to play it by ear and see how it goes. All right, dude.
that does it.
We've wrapped up Toronto. We did it. We're back. It's not gonna be every week. The schedules will not allow that, but we are back. So make sure you follow us on Twitter at Garage Door Sports and on Instagram, Garage Door Sport Network. We'll try to make episodes as much as possible. But until next time, we thank you for listening. And we'll see you then.